in Hochfeld at MIT. We had this very discussion, what do we need to do to deploy? And I think the event that you do this morning, the fact that we have a lively community around clean tech, we have a lot of passion. Guys, we have a lot of educated staff in math, physics, chemistry. These are hard sciences, it's hardware. And it's not going to be the established industries of power make this real. It's going to be people who want to change and make a commitment to change. And I think the community here is incredible. I mean, you have a similar story, and we bring basically our basic insights forward and deploy them basically by sitting down at a table, say, hey, I know everything, but this piece I really know.
Mm-hmm. And you're committed to clean power jobs, which, I mean, on the surface, when you think about batteries, batteries are not a clean industry in many instances.
That's true, but this is basically 1950, the lead-acid battery was invented. 1889, nickel-cadmium was invented. Lithium-ion was invented in the 70s and commercialized in the 1991, actually, by Sony in Japan. And what's interesting with lithium-ion batteries, it has 4 to 5 times the energy density, so energy per weight or volume compared to other technologies. And Boston Power is at the top of that, where we compare to the competition almost double the energy density at half the weight and half the cost. So we have a chance to take this platform and make it into something exceptionally powerful.
Christina, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much. And I wanted to move on to our next speaker, David Brewster, who is the president and co-founder of EnerNOC. I have to tell you, I think I did 3 or 4 stories before I understood EnerNOC, what it means. Energy Network Operations Center in Boston. David, first of all, thank you very much for coming this morning.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Co-founder, energy management innovator, and oversees EnerNOC's regulatory affairs and international development, and oversees also demand response markets. It's a whole new way of looking at how we control our energy consumption. Tell me about EnerNOC, what it does here in Boston, and how it's grown over the last 5 years.
Great. Well, thank you. I mean, I'm hearing more of a common thread among the panelists as we talk, and I think we're all mission-driven in our organizations. And EnerNOC's mission is fundamentally to change the way the electric power industry works. And our core focus has been historically on demand response, and that continues to be our primary source of revenue in the company. And what demand response is all about is basically building a network of buildings, commercial and industrial buildings in our case, and actually paying them to reduce their consumption of electricity. And what I mean by that is we sign a contract with utilities to build a dispatchable resource. And when the grid needs to meet demands, peak demands in power, the choice is either to turn on a power plant and serve electrons to the grid, or reduce demand at buildings. And that's demand response. It's engaging end users so that they actually have the ability to curtail non-essential electricity consumption on demand. And it's a much better solution than building peaking power plants. It's much cleaner, and it puts money back into the pockets of businesses. EnerNOC has, in the past 8 or so years, paid literally tens of millions of dollars to businesses right here in Massachusetts to be more clean in terms of, and more efficient in terms of when and how they consume electricity.
Give us an idea of the growth. I understand, 2 years ago, you were controlling about 1,000 megawatts of power. Now that has grown to 5,000 megawatts. It's a 5-time increase in 2 years, covering many states, and you do it all remotely over the internet. And tell us about that process.
That's exactly right. So we now manage over 5,000 megawatts or 5.1 gigawatts of demand. So that means from our network operations center, which is located right here in Boston, with a few pushes of strokes of a keyboard and affecting our network, we can reduce within minutes 5 gigawatts of demand. So we are now the scale of several large nuclear power stations, and are at a scale where we're affecting capacity prices and energy prices. We're making the markets more efficient. We're reducing costs for ratepayers, and we're making the grid reliable. And we can do this very quickly. So unlike building a power plant, which takes years to commission and find the physical space, build a power plant, commission the power plant, we can grow very quickly, because when we go to a commercial or industrial user, the value proposition is very clear. We're going to pay them. There's going to be no cost. There's going to be no risk. We're going to unlock a tremendous amount of data about how they consume electricity. So it's compelling. Can locate directly where there's constraints in the power grid. So where it's very hard to build a power plant like in downtown Boston or New York City is exactly where the load is that we can build these megawatts, this demand response capacity. And manage over 8,000 facilities. We're across most of the U.S., we're in Canada, we're in the U.K., and we've planted our flags in a few other nations around the world as well.
Just recently you signed a contract with the Tennessee Valley Authority. You have the City of Boston as a client as well. Now, once you sign a contract with an energy producer like the Tennessee Valley Authority, it's your job to go out and find your clients.
That's correct. So we, TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority is a great example. It's in 7 states. It's one of the largest utilities, one of the most risk-adverse utilities in the world, and is quite large. It has a peak demand about the same size as New England. And we earlier this year announced a 560 megawatt contract with TVA. And essentially what that means is TVA makes a decision. They can either go and procure and build 560 megawatts of power plant capacity, or in contract with EnerNOC to go build a network of 560 megawatts of buildings that can reduce that demand in real time. And I think they recognize, like many other utilities, that this is more capital efficient, it's better for ratepayers, it's cleaner. They recognize the value that it provides to the businesses in the Tennessee Valley Authority in terms of giving them money back so that they can continue to hire people, and create jobs, create a stronger economy. So once we sign that contract with TVA, basically our job is to go aggregate the end users. So we go to data centers and hospitals, universities, and industrial facilities and install this technology to automate the process and build this dispatchable capacity. And we share the revenue with the end user. So if we get paid from TVA, we share the revenue that we receive with this network of commercial and industrial buildings. And what's really exciting about our evolution now is we have 8,000 of these commercial and industrial facilities connected to us. We're collecting a tremendous amount of data about how they consume electricity. And now we're able to go back to these end users and offer them hosted energy management applications to drive energy efficiency, to reduce their carbon emissions, to help them make better procurement decisions. So we really become a trusted outsourced energy decision maker for end users.
I want to drop back a bit, and that is, it's intriguing what you do. What your company does didn't exist before EnerNOC.
Well, not exactly true.
But you invented a lot of technology to make this happen.
We absolutely did. So the concept of what we do with demand response has been around actually for decades in the form of interruptible rates, which were the largest industrial facilities would get paid by their utilities to have an emergency ability to shut them off, basically. But really, it was more of an economic development card than it was an actual resource. And what I mean by that is it was a way to give cheaper electricity to large strategic accounts. It was never actually used as a resource. When it was needed in an emergency, it was it was picking up the phone and trying to track down the facility.
Trying to find Charlie at the power panel, right, to turn off some lights.
Maybe hasn't heard about this in 5 years.
Maybe on vacation or a sick day too.
So it wasn't necessarily the most reliable resource. And what EnerNOC has done is through the advent of the internet and ubiquitous cellular networks and affordable control and communication technologies, we're able to bring this to a much broader base of customers and make it two-way, real-time communication, measurable, verifiable, a much more reliable resource.
Well, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate your attendance as well. Let me ask all of you a question, and that is right here, the big elephant in the room, obviously, is the economy. This recovery is so slow. Massachusetts is generating jobs faster than almost every other location in America. Many major cities are still losing jobs. How has the economic downturn affected your business plan and your growth? Bert?
Tremendous impact on us. First, on the downside, anybody that's involved in retail, you just didn't have the foot traffic. So anybody who tells you otherwise, I don't know how it could be so. So it at first sent us reeling a little bit because we had an average annual growth across 14 years of 30%. So we're always sort of chasing that growth and got used to it. In the entire career, that's what we did. So we've got a smart COO. We saw the recession coming and land flat. But for the first couple of months, I felt personally like I was pacing around my office. I didn't know what to do with myself. Recession happens, there's a tremendous opportunity. Very painful to go through it. Everybody with businesses in here has felt some pain. It exposes weaknesses in the market and in your own entity. It got us to take a close look at a handful of weaknesses and long-term strategy. We've adjusted, and it will forever change our business and has made our business so much stronger. So the channels of distribution we analyze more closely, and we're in so many of them. You know, one thing that's a strength about Life is Good is that message is applicable. We're in the outdoor market, we're in the sporting goods market, we're in fashion boutique, we're in the kids market, we're in destination and resort. So there's all these opportunities, but we got to take the time. We weren't running around just making sales. We got to take the time to analyze and say, what are the most beneficial distribution channels for us to be in long term? And we're shaving some down and we're building some new ones. As a result of the recession, we listen to our customers more closely. We're going to launch a maternity line. It's something we should have done a long time ago, but see it. Our company didn't see it. We're going to launch a line that goes into the collegiate market. I feel as though we have mom and dad and the kids taken care of. But I did a commencement speech at UNH last year, and I'm blown away at the reaction from college kids to our brand. So we started researching, and sure enough, it makes sense for us.
So you have another keg party? Is that your research?
No.
No, okay. I just wanted to know.
Not as far as you know.
Not as far as I know. Okay.
There was a few keg parties after. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that recession is difficult, but I'm focused on weaknesses within our organization, but also in the competition out there. Many brands we were competing with that are no longer around, and ultimately that's best for the consumer. You know, I was at a retail convention recently, and somebody mentioned that Linens and Things went out of business. I don't know much about Linens and Things, but I walked in that store. Anybody in this room that misses Linens and Things? You know, I mean, it just was a bunch of tchotchke stuff that nobody needed, that could thrive or exist when the economy was great. When things got tougher, they went away, and ultimately that's good for the consumer, and it's good for those of us in business. So I think that, yeah, my biggest takeaway as an optimist, somebody whose job it is to see the glass half full, recession can enable a deeper analysis of what you're doing and ultimately benefit you. It has us in many ways.
Just for the record, its official title is Chief Executive Optimist, right?
That is true.
Any other companies with that title that you know of?
No, not that I know of.
Not yet. Okay.
We're trying to figure out a title for my brother, but since he was the first guy that designed Jake, that was 16 years ago, he hasn't done a damn thing since.
Well,
if anybody's got any ideas, I'm listening.
Again, the impact of this recession on your company, what has it done to the company?
So, you know, so as we headed into the recession, we were conscious of the impact it would have on our end market, small business. And we've seen it have profound impact. And so for us, it was an opportunity. We were good at listening to the